Once upon a time, there was a group of friends who lived in Texas province. They were very close. They went out every week together. They went to the same school and practiced the same sport, wrestling. There were four of them: Woods, Coffee, Randy, and Langston. One day in the training, something very strange happened. A new coach arrived. His name was Kane, and nothing we heard from the previous coach. One day, the four friends were training when suddenly Kane called Randy. It was time to leave, but Randy did not come out. Woods, Coffee, and Langston were worried about Randy, and they went to the coach's office. He told them that Randy been gone an hour ago. The boys went to look for him at his house, but he did not appear. The next day, they came to their training, but the coach no longer worked there. He also disappeared. The boys, surprised by the event, decided to check the cameras of the place, and they found a great surprise. Everything pointed to the fact that Randy, in that afternoon, had lived in the performance center, the place where they were going to train. At the time stipulated by the coach, however, there was something strange in his friends' behavior, something that made them doubt about what their eyes saw. Randy had always been a happy and smiling person. However, what the cameras showed was something out of the ordinary. In the videos, he was scared, serious, and even restless, as something was chasing him. That when in the video cameras at 10 a.m., half an hour after the time where he was supposed to have left, they saw him again, but this time crawling on the floor of the area near showers when suddenly in a side of the cameras the new coach was there and pulls him into the darkest area of that room. Stunned, they decided to change cameras to see what else happened to him. The following videos was the most chilling they could have imagined. In the room that was supposed to be abandoned, there was an urn, a large urn. Terrified, they saw how the coach puts Randy with Buddy in the small corner and how he slowly closed it almost immediately.
They could not explain how and why that happened. They were still shocked. They were speechless. Hours later, the three friends decided to go on a search to find their friend Randy, even if it cost them their lives. They went to the police to report the disappearance, and they showed them the chilling recordings. The policemen were shocked by such images. They offered the boys to show them all the cameras on the outskirts of the performance center, to follow in Kane's footsteps and see where he was going. But after that, they would have to undertake the search on their own because the policemen were very scared. When they checked the cameras, they realized that Kane went with the arm to a hidden place, very hidden, on the outskirts of the performance center. He went through a wall, and they no longer knew where he went. The boys, very scared, ran towards that place. Being in the place, they decided to go through the wall, but they could not. They tried many times, and nothing. Suddenly, a ghost appeared, named Paul, who told them that he could be their guide to go through Kane's haunted mansion because he had a great hatred for things that happened to him in the past. The boys agreed, and after Paul said an incantation, Woods, Coffee, and Langston, all turning to ghosts, were able to get through the door to enter in the mansion. At first, everything was darkness, and there was echoes. But following the light that was seen in the background below that reddish door, they were able to enter in that place. It seemed as if time was stopped, as if they had entered in another dimension. The boys' pulse clocks stopped. Even on their cell phones, it indicated a connection error. Everything was strange in there. A melody could be heard in the background, something peculiar, as if it were a party in the 18th century, in a kind of opera that was played on a record player that made it sound somewhat distorted. They were clearly afraid, but they were determined to get out of this strange place with their friend. The entrance to the main room had a torn phrase on the door frame. Lasciate ogni speranza voi che entrate. Clearly, the three friends knew the meaning due their Italian and literature classes. As well as obviously, they knew that it was not a good sign that such a phrase was found in that place.
The translation was, "Abandon all hope to winter here." It was a bad sign because, according to the literature of Dante Alighieri, the entrance to hell has that same phrase. The three boys extended a doubtful look. However, they continued on. They knocked on the door, and a very dark voice replied, "I am Cain, the devil's favorite demon, and I took his friend because he was a threat to me. Since he discovered that I am actually a supernatural being, that's why I had him to look in that urn. Besides, the devil always asks me for human souls to fill himself, so I chose Randy. If you want to see him alive, you will have to find the urn in this dark house, where you will hit great skirts, and I don't think you will get out of here alive. Wahaha." After the words, the door was opened, and the three friends entered fastly. Paul said goodbyes, having already done so much for the boys, and he didn't want to get in trouble with Cain. The door closed, and here besides the darkness trying in the story. At first glance, it would look like a normal room, with partners that have the feeling in being old. They were warm and dirty. The atmosphere was heavy. There was a really strong stretch of mud and dirt. In the center of the room, there was a table with several candles, which gave off a dim light that in turn were consumed by darkness. Woods took one of these and used to see what was hiding in the room.
The candles were extinguished, as if a stream of ice hurt and tired. When looking back, the panorama changed. Now there was a tall ornate glass, and you could clearly hear of it was raining outside. But you could also hear someone from the outside of the door, a shadow operate and look like a tall man, and the looking began to creak and move. There was a thought like a pin snapping into place. Coffee instinctively lifted a chair above his head to defend himself. It seemed not to be the key. The shadow continued for a moment, then brightened from the glass, but now it sounded like he was dragging something heavy across the wonder floor. Then suddenly ads crashed into the door and made a hole into the middle in the kitchen, where the boys were, and then they saw who almost rotting hand with elongated fingers cut into the hole made by his axe. The friends this time were very scared. They ran through to the house, though the darkness, grouping, sleeping on the corner, crossed the tiny room, crossed a long corridor, wheel behind them. They could head when somebody continued smashing the door. Then they entered somewhere that appeared to be a likely room. They went to the window, but could only see darkness. Their heavy breaths and their hearts pounding now was the only thing they could hear. Langston said excitedly, "Who is that guy?" "I think he's here to kill you," Coffee replied. The astonishing silence lasted only an instant. Wood said, "He don't want us to do things rightly. He will do anything for you will don't find it." The boys kept walking, and then came a total calm. The boys were calm, when suddenly, on a door, a sign appeared outside.
If you want to find the urn, you have to go through 3 doors. In the first, you will face your greatest fears. In the second, you will want to die. But if you manage to go through the third, you will reach the urn's room, and you will be able to find your friend. The three boys hesitated a bit, but decided to go through the first door, all in order to save their friend Randy. They went through the door. It was a light room, with 3 tables, and each one had a name: Woods, Coffee, and Langston. They decided to sit at each table, and something scary happened. The lights went out. Let's start by seeing what happened to Woods. Woods was scared. He couldn't see anything. Suddenly, he heard a hoarse voice that asked him, "Boy, what is your biggest fear?" Woods replied, "Spiders." At that moment, endless spiders began to fall. Woods jumped scared. He screamed a lot. He had about 100 spiders all over his body. He felt that they were burning him. He had many welts from the spider bites. As he could, he got rid of some spiders, but they were still biting him. Woods couldn't contain himself and gave a huge scream. Strange force took hold of him and he began to dust all the spiders until he got rid of them. Woods had gotten over his fear.
The same thing happened to Langston. A hoarse voice asked him, "What is your biggest fear?" Langston answered the weather. Suddenly Langos found himself in a pool that was filling with the sea, more and more to the point of reaching his neck. Langston was very scared. He felt like he was drowning. The weather already covered his entire body. Langston was kicking and swimming as best he could. Suddenly a strange force took over him, and he managed to get out of the water and spit the water from his lungs on the table. Langos overcame his fear. Now let's see what happened to Coffee. The same situation occurred. A hoarse boy asked Coffee, "What is your biggest fear?" Coffee replied, "To be forgotten by my loved ones." At the time Coffee was in a locked grave, there was total silence. Coffee was crying. He felt very lonely and empty. It began to fill with soil. Coffee was full of soil. When suddenly Langos and Woods pulling him out of the grave, the three of them overcome these fears and the second door opened. They on where they wanted to die. The entire everything was dark and awaited penetrating silence, which all could be heard suddenly. Blood began to rain. There were many screams, voices, and whispers. This voice said, "You must die. You are worth nothing. Flee or you will regret it."
The three friends were very scared. Books began to fall. The floor was slippery. It began to fill with spikes that hurt the children a lot. There were many ghosts. They pushed and tormented everyone. The three friends decided to face the ghost, because they were also ghosts. After a long battle, they managed to defeat the ghost and were able to get through the third gate. There, everything was even darker. There was a lot of fog, but in the distance, all the urns that Cain owned were visible. The boys started looking everywhere. Each urn had a name. After a long time, they found Randy's urn, but when they tried to take it, it fell and broke. Everything was dust. They collected all the ashes and put them in a bag. There, in that space, there was a spell to transform the ashes into a body again. This spell was, "Dust you are, and you will become flesh." They repeated that spell about 10 times, until finally Randy turned human again. The three friends gave each other a big hug. Randy thanked them very much for saving him. At that moment, Cain appeared. His face was creepy. He had a red mask and a very strange black suit. He attacked the four friends, charged them, and whipped them on the floor. He threw lightning at them, shocked them, and then set them on fire. After a while, their ashes were left on the floor, and he put them in a new urn that had the inscription "The New Day."